Hello and welcome. This is Angie with thecountrystreetcottage.net. So today we're going to talk about Cricut blades. So whether you have a Cricut Joy, a Cricut Explore, or a Cricut Maker, you might want to know what blades are available with your machine and what they do. So let's talk about each of the blades and their function in each of the machines. So let's start with the blades for the Cricut Joy, and then we'll talk a little bit about the Cricut Explore blades. Now, one thing to note, any blade that will go in the Cricut Explore series will also fit in the Cricut Maker. So let's jump into those blades. We're going to start with talking about the fine point blade. So this blade is for the Cricut Joy. It's the fine point blade for the Joy. These blades are the fine point blade that will go in either the Cricut Explore series or the Cricut Maker. And then this over here is the deep cut blade that will go in either the Cricut Explore series or the Cricut Maker. So the fine point blade for the Joy versus the Explore and the Maker are two different blades. They're two different housings, as you can see, but the blade itself is also slightly different when you take it out. So you will need to look for fine point blades for the Joy versus fine point blades for the Explore and Maker. Now you might have any of these three colored housings for the fine point blade. So the gold is meant to be the premium fine point, and the gray was meant to be the regular fine point blade. Some of you may have gotten the gray version with your machine, but you can get the premium fine point blades and add them to this housing, but the gold housing designates the premium. The pink housing actually designates a bonded fabric blade. So just like you want fabric scissors versus regular scissors, you want regular blade versus fabric blade. So be sure to either get a pink housing for the blade you're going to use just for bonded fabric, or get two gold housings or two silver housings and mark the one that you're going to use for fabric. So these three blades are the same in these because I put a premium fine point in this silver housing, but the three different colors are okay. Now, what can you use the fine point blade on? So any of these are fine point blades, either for the Joy or the Explore and Maker series, and you can use them for paper, cardstock, poster board, vinyl, iron-on, and any other thin to medium weight materials, and of course bonded fabric as well. So now the deep point blade. So the deep point goes slightly deeper than the fine point, and this one can be used on the Explore or the Maker series. Now the Joy itself at this time only comes with the fine point, so we'll no longer be talking about the Joy machine. The rest of the blades will either go in the Explore and the Maker or just the Maker. So the deep point has a steeper angle, so it's like a 60 degrees versus the fine point that's a 45 degrees. And you want to cut thicker materials with this. Think magnet, chipboard, stamp material, thick cardstock, stiffened felt, foam sheets, cardboard, and even some fabrics you might use the deep point blade on. I also love it for like leather and things like that, the Cricut brand of leather. So if you've not seen our videos on leather, you will definitely want to check those out. Now this pink blade is for bonded fabric only. So it's for fabric that has a bonding on the back of it, which is what the Explore series cuts. But now we're going to jump into blades that are exclusively for the Maker, and we can get into more cuts with fabric once we switch to those blades. So now that we've looked at the blades for the Cricut Joy and the Cricut Explore series, let's jump into the blades that are exclusive to the Cricut Maker and what they can do. Alright, so these are currently the blades for the Cricut Maker. First of all, your Cricut Maker will come with a rotary blade. So this tip is different from any of the other tips. So you will need the rotary blade housing and tip that come with your machine. And you can change the blade itself, but you will need this housing that comes with your machine. Now, the rotary blade itself is amazing for cutting fabric of all types with no backing. So that's primarily what this is used for. But you could also use it for things like tissue paper, cork. I've used mine for some types of leather, but basically just about any material where you want to roll the cut instead of dragging, the rotary blade is what you want. The next blade for the Maker only is the knife blade. So the knife blade is extremely dense materials, so up to 3/32 of an inch, and so it's kind of like a craft knife, but for your Cricut Maker. So think balsa wood, mat board, chipboard, all those really thick materials is what you want to use the knife blade for. Again, this housing is different from any of the other housings, so you will need a knife blade housing and blade in order to use this knife blade with your maker. But you can replace just the knife blade itself, just the blade, with a replacement blade and not have to replace the entire housing. Then these tools actually use the same housing. So this housing and this housing are the same, but there are just different tips that go on the housing, and I just happen to have two housings. So what can you do with these housings? So you can just get one housing if you just want one, and then you can do a variety of different things. So there are scoring wheels, both a double and a single, for scoring your material. You can also, so these are just for the Cricut Maker. If you want to score on the Cricut Explore, you'll need a scoring stylus, which is not a blade but goes in the pin slot. And so the scoring wheels open up a little bit more flexibility with scoring, but you could definitely use that styling on the Explorer as well. And then the rest of the tips for the quick swap housing are the wavy blade for wavy cuts, the perf blade for perforated cuts, the deboss tip for debossing a variety of materials, from just chipboard, from cardstock to like some types of leather, faux leather, that type of thing can definitely be debossed with the deboss tip. And then there's an engraving tip. So I've used this on things like aluminum, leather, just those thicker materials, and if you want a deep engraving, the engraving tip is the way to go. So these are the tips and blades specifically for the Cricut Maker. So now that you've seen all the blades, it might help you, number one, determine which blade to use for which project. Number two, determine which blades you need to buy for your machine. Or number three, determine if you need to upgrade your machine because you really want that engraving tip for the Cricut Maker. I think everyone does. So thank you all so much for joining me today. If you love this video, learned something new, give us a thumbs up. If you have any questions about any of the blades, feel free to ask us in the comment section below. So we also have a video all about changing Cricut blades, and I'll be linking to that in the description below. So you can definitely head there if you have questions about how to change your blade or even when to change your blade. You might also want to head on over to our YouTube channel if you have not already. Hit that subscribe button because we do Cricut videos every week and you don't want to miss any of those. So thank you all so much for joining me this week, and I will see you next week with another fun Cricut video. Thanks y'all. Bye-bye.